Everybody, it's Safi and Marco, dish out on the movies. And guess what? We are doing an actual review of a movie today.
We're here for another bad movie in our bad movie month, where we just watch bad movies.
Which is really depressing, and I'm reading 2 books on the side to help me get through it. And watching X-Files episodes, which some of them are pretty good.
To be fair, Safi, Fateful Findings and The Room were not really bad movies. So, I mean, okay, Fateful Findings was bad, but it was entertaining. The Room was not bad at all. So I wouldn't even call that a bad movie. This movie lived up to the title of the month, Bad Movie Month.
Yes, and it was by
Chauncey,
who used to do YouTube videos with his friend Matt. And Matt's gone now, and it's just Chauncey, and Chauncey has lost quite a bit of weight. He used to be very heavy, but he had some significant life-threatening health problems, and he was forced to lose weight, and he did.
Safi.
Marco just told me before we got on to be serious. Who's being serious? I am. Who isn't being serious?
Because I just called
Marco.
I just almost called you Chauncey. No, but Safi, do you think that all of his creativity was in the fat that he had? Like, do you think that when he lost weight, he also lost all of his creativity?
No.
I think so.
I don't think so. I just think that he's... I don't know. I have no idea what's happened.
Well, let's be honest.
Maybe it's the environment he's in. I don't know.
I used to watch all of his videos. I don't anymore at all. Unless it's just for fun to see, like, updates, to see when movies come out and everything. I used to watch all of his videos. I used to watch all of his vlogs of walking around the town. It was fun.
I watched some of those too.
I watched all of his skits. I watched his short movie when he had that on YouTube. He used to have all of his short movies for free on YouTube. And then he gradually just moved them to where you have to pay to watch them through these shitty anthology movies with other terrible shorts that don't deserve to be put next to his. And over time, I started to not watch him after he moved to California and stopped being friends with MJ.
Yeah.
Well, his name is Matthew, or Mathau, but he's called MJ. And I stopped watching him after that because I really didn't like his newer videos. I didn't like his newer friends. They're all a bunch of fakes and phonies, and I just don't like them at all. They just ooze with just ugh.
Well, they're called wannabes.
Yeah.
They're actor wannabes.
And they're not really genuine people. They're like a bunch of cardboard cutouts that you'd see in like a Scooby-Doo cartoon. And that was never what his videos were back when he was with MJ. MJ was a genuine person, and so it always felt like real videos of real people. And after he moved to California, the videos stopped feeling real. And they started feeling like these are just videos made by a YouTuber so he can get more subscribers, more commenters. They don't really feel genuine. And he doesn't even do really around the town videos anymore. And if he does, they're not really like they were back then.
Which is a shame, because when YouTubers do things like that in their hometowns, which it's not really his hometown, he is from Maryland, but still, he lives there now. He has made that his home, and that would have been really good for him to go around and while he's discovering new places to do around town, because I've never been to Southern California. I've been to Northern California, And California is a multivariate state with many different environments, and Northern California is a lot different from Southern California. California, so totally different environment. Even the weather is different. So anyway, that's a shame. I know another YouTuber's from Las Vegas. She goes to different places or just even talks about them. I've never been to Las Vegas, so I find it interesting, you know, and I don't give a crap about Las Vegas, but she lives there as a person who lives and works there or has a family there.
And in fact,
it's interesting.
His skits were really good.
Yeah.
They were really fun and creative. They had a home video quality to them in a good way, where you feel like, oh, it'd be cool to see people from all over the place make skits or movies like this, where they're a very unique and fun thing, and they're not just like, oh, this is a serious movie, quote unquote. Like, we're trying to make a Hollywood movie here.
It would be better if he had that might be the problem, is the attitude.
It's definitely a different attitude, for sure.
The attitude is probably wrecking his creativity, covering it up, making it hide.
And I showed you one of his shorts, and what did you think of that short movie, Splashing into Shape? Because I always thought that was the best one. From what I saw, I think that was the best one. I'm not sure
I don't
how
know.
I rank everything.
It was gross, but it was very honest.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
And it was funny.
And funny. So it was a very good thing video. And instead of, it seems like when you have this attitude where, okay, I've got to make a professional, quote, Hollywood movie.
It's a serious movie. It's going to be on streaming services.
It shades the authenticity of it.
Yeah.
And maybe the artistic freedom. I mean, you might even think, oh my God, I've got to make this serious movie, so I can't do this and that. I mean, you've got to think of all the things you can't do. And when you're just thinking, this is for fun, it's a video, I'm going to make a story, and we're going to have a lot of fun, I think that right then in itself makes it better, because you're not putting all this pressure on yourself, and it's less, I would think it'd be less stressful because you're having fun doing it.
It's kind of like people who, they take a test and they do really badly, and then, but they are really good at the subject otherwise. Like people who...
Yeah, people get stressed out by tests.
Take tests and they fail, but then everything else, they do a great job. That's what it kind of seems like. It's like if he had made the same movie back in 2008 with MJ and with some random chick that he could have got, some ugly Maryland chick that he could have gotten, this would have been such a better movie. It would have been like a 5 out of 5 movie. Even if, there'd be a lot of flaws, there'd be a lot of, oh, that's goofy, that's dumb. It would have been such a great, fun movie. Like, based off of all these movies that he did back then, it seemed like he was on a projection to do better in movies and just things that were just, they're fun movies. Like, movies don't have to all be serious and overly, like The Godfather. Remember that, Safi? There was this really funny, bad video where he talked about, everyone in my film class said The Godfather was their favorite movie, and I just thought, ew, Godfather's boring. My favorite movie is Return of the Living Dead. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that, because Return of the Living Dead is a fun movie. A lot of people love that movie. This movie, Amityville Karen, I could see more similarities to The Godfather than Return of the Living Dead, with the way that it wanted to create like this serious storyline with these, there's messages in the movie, like, anyone can be a Karen, Safi. Even you could be.
I don't think so.
Even you could be a Karen if you drink cursed wine. So.
Yeah, but I think the point of that is you don't have to have cursed wine to be a Karen.
Yeah.
You are just a Karen.
Well, so we watched this Amityville Karen, and unfortunately we bought it on Blu-ray, and we'll probably sell it now that we're done with it, because I'd never watch this movie again, ever.
No.
Ever would I watch it. So that should tell you guys how bad this movie was. Amityville Karen, it is definitely the worst movie of 2022 by far. The Requiem and The King's Daughter were pretty disgustingly bad, but this movie was even more boring than both of them. Like, I was surprised. The biggest surprise of this movie was how boring it was. Like, I was so bored out of my mind.
I was too, and I was really looking forward to being more entertained, even if it wasn't very quality driven. I wanted it would just be nice to watch a movie, a fun movie that wasn't so serious.
I was walking around the room, pacing to try to stay awake. I was staring at my phone, clicking on random things. I was eating a salmon patty, hoping that I'd choke on a salmon bone and die so that I wouldn't have to watch the rest of the movie.
That's terrible.
Well, the movie was boring.
Well,
I was so bored. I just wanted it to end.
And then it just went on and on too, which I was really surprised about.
It was torture.
And I was falling asleep, which is not a surprise because I usually just
because
I'm so tired.
You're
but
sleepy,
still,
Safi.
But still, I was prepared to watch the whole thing, which I did, and not fall asleep and be more entertained. And
yeah, we thought
I wouldn't be sleepy.
We thought even if this was bad, maybe it'll be bad in a good bad way, where it's funny, it's got great kills, it's got fun stuff in it, but it was not fun at all.
Maybe if I had, I could be called the sleepy meter, and so I would be rating the movie or show based on how soon I fall asleep, or if I don't fall asleep, and that would be called Safi's sleepy meter. And this one
could be like a science experiment for retards.
Let's not, Marco doesn't mean anything by that. He actually has a family member who has Down syndrome.
But he's not retarded. Who's that again?
Stephen.
Well, he's not a retard. He's just mentally retarded or mentally handicapped. He's not retarded. A sleepy Safi, that can be pretty retarded. You just fall asleep at the drop of a hat.
I do.
To the point of where I have to sit there constantly waking you up.
I just don't get enough sleep, and that's part of the reason why.
Which makes it so that I can't even fully pay attention to the movie, even though that I just wanted to take the movie. Oh, look, there's a raccoon. We see a raccoon on the... That's pretty funny. Look. And so, I just wanted to take this movie and throw it out the window. Like, it was that bad. Like, let's start off... The movie started off with these trailers for other bad movies. And I
was surprised about that.
I was too.
That there were trailers of other movies. I wasn't even expecting to see that.
The only movie I thought looked good from those bad movie trailers was... There was this one with, like, mice in it, and it was like a black and white 1964 parody movie. And I thought that looked like a fun movie. I would like to watch that, probably. I wouldn't want to buy it on Blu-ray. I just want to stream it. But everything else looked like complete garbage. It just looked so amateur and so effortless. Like, these people, you'd think that they would want to make a good impression on people with their movies. But instead it just seems like they want to get their little IMDb credit and pretend like they're real movie makers by making these shitty movies. But it's like, just because you make a movie, that doesn't mean you're a movie maker. Like, there's been lots of really bad movies by bad filmmakers. Even big movies like The Batman.
Ugh.
I mean, that movie was just terrible. It was complete dog shit.
It was horrible.
And I wouldn't call the people who made that movie makers at all, because they just like plagiarized other movies and scrapbooked all the parts that they liked onto a Batman story. And, that's not really movie making, is it? That's just, I don't know what it is. It's a typical 2022 lazy filmmaking. And this film, it started off with, immediately I thought, oh, I'm already starting to want to smash my head against the wall until it's completely smushed in, because it starts off and you have a drone shot where it's like flying down from the sky, and it's on this ugly ass fucking California house. God, this movie's so ugly. Like, you'd think they're in California. You'd think, oh, this is gonna be a really pretty movie. It's gonna be a really colorful, bright. Ooh, this is gonna look great. And it starts off and it flies down, and it's like, ooh, it's a serious movie, Safi, because the camera's flying down from the sky. And it's like, this is, and they sucked all the color out, too. They sucked all the color out.
Out of the initial shot. I don't get that.
To make it look as ugly in 2022 as possible. I guess they call that color grading, but I just call it, I don't know. I think it's like ruining the colors, because there is no color in this movie. It's a colorless movie. It looks like a 2-year-old got a colorful picture and then colored it all with a black crayon.
Yeah, I was surprised about that. But then, if they're in Southern California, I think they've been having a drought. So that might have, but then, so what they have to do then, I guess, is raise the color.
Yeah.
And they did do it for later scenes. Because I remember somebody was mowing with their riding lawnmower or something, and they showed the color.
It was a little colorful. It wasn't very colorful.
Well, it was better than what it was initially.
Yeah, it looked like a vampire sucked all the color from the movie.
Yeah,
which is weird, because
it doesn't make any sense.
Earlier this year, I watched a Netflix movie with Todd from Breaking Bad, and it took place at a California orchard in this one house, and it was a very colorful, good movie until the ending, which was terrible. And it's in like the same type of environment. And this movie was in the same type of environment. It looked completely different, completely ugly and colorless.
I don't know. And even the inside. Now, I was thinking maybe they could have used a, what's that? Where you, instead of staying in a hotel, you stay in these places, and I can't think of what.
A hostel?
No, where it's an individual house and you.
A B&B?
No, a B&B.
Yeah.
That can have more than one person in a house, and they serve breakfast. No, it's the other.
An Airbnb.
An Airbnb.
Oh.
That's it. Because it was very plain.
Yeah, all the sets were very plain.
I mean, nothing.
And guys, I'm telling you, it's yet another small, bad movie where the sets are very ugly and dull looking. That is a telltale sign of a bad movie, is that they pay no attention into, like, okay, we need to make this place look aesthetically like it should for these situations and characters. Like, remember in Psycho, where you go into the back of that office in Bates Motel, and you see all those birds all over the walls, and you see the painting of the rape painting, and, that's what it's called, Safi. I'm not kidding. In fact, I'll look that up right now just so I can prove you wrong, because you're shaking your head like little child.
No, it's because you're laughing.
Because it's funny.
No, it was very, it had no personality.
And
There
that
were no books.
Bates Motel does.
I don't remember if there was, really very little wall decor. I mean, people, when they, resellers like myself, you get stuff for your people's walls to sell. Little artworks, or they call them wall pockets, like they're little ceramic or wood or metal, and they have little pockets, and you put them on the wall, and then you can stick stuff in the pockets, depending the size of the pocket, but they're decorative, and they're colorful, or they can be plain, but there's still a personality. There's no personality, there's no books, there's no magazines.
The Rape of Lucretia.
The furniture is like tan and white and just really cheap looking. I don't know if it was IKEA or the dollar store or.
Oh, Safi, it wasn't good enough to be from the dollar store.
I don't know why. I hate to criticize the dollar store because that place is a lot of fun. It's almost as fun as the bins.
The set design wasn't fun.
But the set design was just like, I mean, and he said, Chauncey said that he had, it's Sean, I think, he said that he had done almost everything in the movie. And when I say done, I mean...
He was very proud of it.
Each part of it, like, let's say he worked on the dialogue, or he worked directing. And I would think set design, costume. I mean, think about all the parts to a movie. And he said he did almost all of it. So...
The Rape of Lucretia.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Anyway...
That has so much personality, just that painting all by itself.
He could have gone... They have a lot more thrift stores that are not just Goodwill. They have all kinds of stuff we don't have in our area. Savers and all these things. And he could have gotten maybe $10. Spent $10.
Yeah, because we've been going to the bins, and we could have basically gotten his entire movie props and wardrobe for like a couple of dollars. Like, well, that's how cheap it is at the bins.
It isn't going to be thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a place. It's the Goodwill thrift outlet, and it's the last stand before it's thrown in the landfill.
Like, even the clothes, there were some points where, you could see through Karen's shirt, or you could see like this, I don't know what you call it, like a hole, and you could see that her bra is like the bra she probably wears in real life, like this very Southern California, like all these different colors type of, like a sports bra. It looked like a sports bra.
Oh.
And it didn't fit at all with the outfit, and it just made me think, like, these are simple things. Like there was this one part at the beginning where she's on a phone call, and you could see that her phone was off while she's talking on the phone, and then she turns on the phone, she presses a couple of buttons on the home thing to unlock her phone, and then she turns off her phone again to talk on the phone. And later on in the movie, this guy with like 1,000 tattoos, he talked on the phone, quote unquote.
But he did,
and
you could tell.
You could see he's like on Twitter or something, and he's like, "Ooh, I'm talking on the phone," and it's like, God, this is like, why? It's like they couldn't have had like someone else's phone in the background, and they could have like had it to where he called that phone, and then just like or just shoot it from another perspective where you don't see the phone screen. Shoot it from the other side of his fucking face so that you don't see it, and it doesn't even matter. Like, this is just, it's simple. It's simple. It doesn't even have anything to do with the story or the characters or effects. Oh, Safi, the effects. Why?
Weird. there's so many things that...
Oh, you could go on for hours.
Yeah, and we're not going to do that.
Why not?
Because we don't have the time to do that. But anyway,
well,
it was a bad movie, and he said, admittedly, he had done most of everything in the movie. So what does that say to you? It doesn't say something
And you could
good.
tell. You could tell. And no, I would disagree with that. There's so many movies where they're made, people do everything themselves, and they're so much better.
Yeah,
Like Eraserhead, that movie. David Lynch, he painted the sets himself. He painted houses. He painted, like, the entire sets himself.
Yeah, but that's David Lynch.
Yeah.
This guy, I don't know, he just couldn't handle it or something. I don't know. What else does he have to do? This is it. And he's raised money from people, ordinary people.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
And, my God. That's why I kind of call him a fraud. Because he's constantly asking for money to make a movie. And since this movie, how many movies has he made, Marco?
Well, since that...
He's talked about.
Since that one, I think just two. I think just, the minstrel, or the mistletoe minstrel, or the
mistletoe mystery.
Mistletoe massacre or something.
Oh, yeah.
And then,
that's more of a wild.
Now he's doing Pay to Die, which is just like, basically, pay me again. Like, that should be the title of the movie.
Yeah, so Marco, who this is what he would like to do in his life, is to make movies. He pays a lot more attention to the making of it, all the aspects and pieces and parts.
This was good in terms of that, because you can see a lot of glaring issues that I would never have made, probably, in making something at all. Like, for instance, probably one of the biggest issues of this movie is the sound.
And and there was a problem with that, especially for one character, which I don't get it. I don't know if it was her microphone. Were they all wearing hidden microphones? I thought when you make a movie, they have like dangly ones and in room ones. Maybe they were hanging up somewhere. And this one girl, it didn't even, and I thought it was the room she was in, but apparently it was anywhere she was. She talked so softly, you couldn't hear her and understand what she was saying.
Safi, you just received another text from you-know-who. He says, "Oh yeah, number 2, success." And now that's on the YouTube video, too.
Oh, brother.
What do you think of that, Safi?
Let's just move on.
Okay. But the sound, it was so horrible. I don't know how any streaming service would accept this movie into their streaming services.
And there was like one room, especially.
The sound kept going in and out and in and out. You'd have one character, and they'd yell, and you could hear it way too loudly. And then you'd have another character who's talking, and you can't even hear his voice at all. And it's weird, because in his old skits, his old videos, all of them had perfect sound. There wasn't ever any bad sound in his old videos. And so it boggles my mind how now it's like he's de-evolving as a filmmaker.
Yeah, and that is a part of filmmaking too. So he was in charge of, quote, sound, editing, costumery.
Let's see if it says on IMDb.
Dialogue.
Who else did sound that we need to complain about? Well, go ahead, Safi.
Set
What else?
design, I mean, you name it. And he said he did almost all of it. Well, the sound thing, I would think, is just like when I complain about some of these shows being too dark.
It did have a boom operator named Oliver Poser.
Oh my God.
But that's probably just another word for Shotzi.
Yeah.
Oliver Poser. Oh my God.
Yeah, So anyway, it was a bad movie. The storyline, it was very bare naked. It was just barely there, and I didn't even know what was going on at all. For a while, it's like you had to keep listening to certain clues to help you figure out what's going on. And I don't think we even completely figured it out on certain aspects of it. And we were just like, it's like, which I think it's disgusting. I don't care how much money the movie rakes in. If the people who are watching the movie, if it's all up to them to figure out what's going on, what does that say? Why is it up to us? We're not being paid to come up with the storyline and to get it right and understandable. We should be given more information, and it helps the movie.
Well, Safi, let's just talk about. So we've talked about sound. Sound was terrible, and the music was terrible too.
I don't even know what the music was.
There was this horrible music where it was like someone watched like a YouTube video that said, you can make a horror movie soundtrack by pressing 3 notes on a keyboard over and over again. And so there was this one song, and it was played in the trailer. And we're not going to play it here because then the people who made the film could strike our video so that they could censor the bad reviews. But there's this one song where it went like, dun, 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 or I don't know, like it was like 3 notes. And they just played that song like 5 times. And it's not like the Halloween theme where it's like, okay, that's cool to hear over and over because it's scary and it's fun and it's cool. It's like an irritating, it's like this isn't even really music. Like you could have gotten royalty-free music on YouTube that was better than this.
Yeah, with YouTubers do it all the time.
And you pointed out, Safi, there was a part in the movie where they're partying. And, of course, it didn't even really look like a party.
They're dancing.
It looked
nothing.
like a little tiny group of friends.
Goofing around.
They didn't have any music to dance to.
And so they're pretending. Now, I know that in soap operas, because somebody's brought this up, when you see if you're watching a soap opera, which is not on much anymore to watch, but if they have a dance scene where, let's say they're in a club, and you see them dancing around, well, you do hear the music, but when they're dancing, they're not hearing any music. So they're pretending as if music is playing, but for them, they can't hear it. But for us, we put it both together because we can hear the music and we can see them dancing. So they're just saying how hard that was sometimes to do that. But on this one, there was no music for us or for them. And so they're standing there acting as if they're dancing to music. And I thought that was spastic.
And in fact, they had this one band member, and he was like singing a quote-unquote song, and it was terrible, and it wasn't even really a song. And it was just like a couple like goofy lines that felt like, ew, who wrote this? And that's another thing, is that the dialogue in this movie, it felt like it was written by someone who doesn't really talk to people a lot because it was weird.
Well, that could be.
It was like, there was so much like robotic, like, lines where like, okay, this just does not make sense. Like, why is this person saying that after that person said that? And there were all these times with like the Karen especially where she would yell at people and then they'd just like say some random things. It was just, the dialogue didn't really make any sense throughout the movie. I don't really know how to explain it, but it was just so unnatural.
And she would dream. She would fall asleep on the couch, or she'd be in bed because it was nighty time, and she went to bed. And then she would be talking in her sleep, I guess. Insane, weird stuff.
So she'd say, I want to talk to the supervisor, 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 supervisor in her sleep. And that's a big glaring issue, is that the Karen in this movie is not realistic. Because the person who wrote this movie, they don't really understand what a Karen is. Karens are a byproduct of feminism. Because what they are is that they're perpetual victims. They're the victims to the highest order, where everything is about them. They're always a victim of something. And you saw that a little bit in this movie. Like, there was one part where this guy was talking to her, and then she was saying, oh, you're sexually harassing me.
Oh, yeah, she said that a lot.
And stuff like that. Like, that was a little bit like a real Karen, but a lot of it was just stereotypes of, like, I want to talk to your manager, and all these types of, like, stereotypical things that it just didn't seem real. And it's too bad, because the actress, she put a lot of effort into being a Karen. Like, she wanted to be the fullest Karen she could be.
Yeah, she did I thought she did a pretty good job.
Unfortunately, she wore a wig the whole movie, and the wig was very distracting. I really felt like she should have just had her normal hair, and they should have just styled it, like at a hair salon. You know, take some of the crowdfunding money, and instead of spending it on these bad actors, who are probably some of the worst actors I've ever seen, spend it on getting her hair styled for the movie.
It was interesting. I did recognize one of the actors. I thought, boy, that person really looks familiar.
He was about the only good one, or one of the only few good ones.
And I think because he's had experience for a long time, since he was a kid. He was in Independence Day. Remember the kid, the son of Randy Quaid, who was very, he was like paying attention to everything and making sure everything was staying on track. In fact, he was kind of like the substitute father. He was more of a father than the alcoholic in the movie, Randy Quaid.
And yeah, he played a character in the film. And he had this weird character where he really wanted to throw parties so that he could meet new people. And I thought, ooh, that could have been such a better film if you had made it take place all in one house. You could have him, who plays like a brother of the Karen, and he really wants to throw parties, and then Karen would ruin all of his parties, and she would like ruin everything and be like a huge bitch. Like, you know, that Baby Jane or Jane?
Baby Jane.
Kind of like that movie where you have like a sibling rivalry.
With Betty Davis.
That could have been like this movie a little bit.
Joan
like
Crawford.
I was thinking that, like, instead of doing this stupid plot where I don't even know what the plot was. Like, there wasn't even a story or anything. It was just random shit happened for 2 fucking hours. But
It was awful.
let's talk about the crowdfunding. Okay, so people paid to be in this movie, Safi. They paid to act. They paid to be news reporters. They paid at the end, the credits. They paid to act in small roles, act in whatever roles. And you could tell that there were people who, you know, they're not really. It's weird too. It's like, I couldn't really tell. This is how bad the acting was, too. I think the best actors were James Duvall, Karen, and Chauncey. Chauncey became kind of like the hero at the end, and he was okay. You know, he didn't do a bad job, in my opinion. But everyone else, it was so hard to tell who paid to be in the movie and who was like a quote-unquote legitimate actor, because everyone was doing such a terrible job. And I thought, like, you know, this is not good filmmaking, for people to pay to be in a movie, for them to pay to be cast in a movie. That's not good filmmaking. And, you know, you can break the rules a lot when you're making these small movies, but you have people who pay to be in your movie. Like, isn't that kind of, like, gross? Like, and just ew. Like,
Well, that's why I call him a fraud.
yeah.
Because, well, there's more than one. Because he's continually on there asking for money to make the next movie. And he's made, well, I don't know, at least a half a dozen, including this one. And this is the only one people have seen.
And based on this, I'd never pay for another one again, ever. So I'd have to like watch it for free on YouTube, like his older films and things.
Well,
first.
He's very good. I mean, if you didn't know his past, he's very good about asking for money and making it seem like a fun thing. He's very enthusiastic. He's a very good salesman.
But when this is the product that you're selling, it's not very good.
Yes, but you have to see it before you know that.
Yeah, and people can see this movie. They can see this.
Not all these people who give him money right now have seen anything he's ever done. They're newbies. And there's people constantly getting on YouTube. They've never gotten on there before in terms of this and seeing what he's done. And known, if they knew, I don't see it.
And to be fair, he's not a real fraud because he's been a part of some weird productions in the past where, other people actually committed fraud. And that happened. There was this one movie he was supposed to be in 2012, and it was called like Cannibal Mountain Massacre or something. And I had Safi for my birthday contribute to that movie a little bit, like I think $12 or something. And that movie never got made or anything. And even Chauncey admits that, like, that movie, I don't know what happened with that movie. And so that would be an example of real fraud with that movie. But he didn't have anything to do with that. But what we're saying is this type of filmmaking practice where people are paying to be in the movie so that they can have their, like, 5 seconds of fame, it's not even like good fame. It's like, why would you want to be associated with this movie? Why would you want people to see how bad of an actor you are? Why wouldn't you want to take the time to learn the craft of acting and do it the proper way and get cast the right way? Like, do you think it would also be good if, like, somebody slept with Chauncey and they got a role?
Ew.
Because they slept with him and they could say, I slept with Chauncey.
I don't think he would even do that.
No, he wouldn't. But I'm saying it's the same type of thing. We're like, oh, people should just pay to be in my movies. It's like, oh, well, why don't they sleep with you too then? Like, that's the level of where it's at with, like, these people, they didn't deserve to be in this movie. They're not good at acting. There was a lot of terrible acting in this movie. In particular, I would say, who's the worst one to you, Safi?
I don't know, Marco.
Who's the worst of the worst of the worst?
Probably the guy with the tattoos.
Really?
That would be one. And then, when I say the tattoos, I don't mean a couple. I mean, he's covered. He's like in the olden days in Carnival when they had the tattoo person and they were just covered. That's what he is.
Yeah, he looks
Pretty
like
much.
he looks kind of like an executioner for a gang or something.
Yeah, he could be in the
He could be like a
biker gang.
if they made like a biker Godfather movie.
In fact, maybe he has been in a biker gang.
If
I
they
don't
made,
know.
they could actually, Chauncey, he could make a, what was that movie, Easy Rider? He could make like an Easy Rider type of movie starring that guy, and it would be perfect. So you think him? Well, I think there's this one actor, and he was basically like an overweight Woody Harrelson, and it's sad because like he would just like talk his lines like he didn't really put much effort into saying them like a normal human being would. He would just like recite his lines like it was so hard for him to memorize these lines. and I really thought he was the worst. I also thought like most of the people in the credits were terrible. And the credits, remember that, Safi? What'd you think of that, the credits?
Well, I guess it was a good idea because I think they were supposed to comment on the movie.
They were.
And that was what, but they're like weathermen or news anchors. And so they were all standing in front of the same screen, which I don't know how they did that. But I imagine it can be done, and it's not that hard. So I shouldn't even make a comment like that. It just shows how, misinformed I am or not informed enough. And, but anyway, I guess they wrote the comments themselves. Maybe somebody else edited them. I don't know. I have no idea. But, yeah, I guess if they paid to do it, what else are they going to do? I guess you know what they could have done? They could have all gone to the bins, and they could have bought a decoration out of the bins, which would have been like $1 a piece, and they could have decorated the house, donated decorations.
I don't know. I think...
or he would have decided the decor, let's say Southwestern or something.
There were like one or two good ones where there were actually a couple of people who, like, it's unfortunate they weren't in the full film. Like, there was that guy who had the movie background, and he's like a movie YouTuber, and I thought that he seemed like he could have been a good actor in the movie, but most of them were just completely useless, and I was like, God, this is kind of sad watching all these people who paid money to be in this movie and paid money for this movie to be made. And the effects is really one of the last things to touch on, because the kills in this movie were horrendous, which is very weird because in all of his skits, in his old skits, he had very good kills, and they were simple, but they were effective and fun and cheesy, and they were very like old school. These kills in this movie were lazy, and sometimes he wouldn't even do anything to make it look like... I mean, he complained... This guy has complained before about movies not having any blood. He did this whole rant and rave about Prom Night, the Prom Night remake, where he said in that movie that they just had these lines of blood on people's throats. He complained and complained and complained. And in his own movie, there's no blood whatsoever except for like 2 kills.
Drops, though.
Yeah.
Well, I guess there was one, but it wasn't on the floor as much. It was mostly on the person's clothing.
There was like a person like who got their throat slit, and it was literally exactly like Prom Night, where it was just a line of blood. And I thought, wow, how hypocritical. I hope that when nothing is like that with mine, where I said something and then I do it in my movie, or I complain about it. And so lastly, I would just say that the story was terrible because there wasn't really a story. There was a lot of stuff that didn't make sense. There was this part where she kills all these people at the winery, and then the next day their bodies have disappeared.
Yeah, I didn't understand that at all. Was she making them disappear?
I guess. And, there's all these times in the movies where she just overpowers these 300-pound men.
Real big guys, too. I'm, 6 foot something.
And she's like a little twig girl, and it's
like me.
It's just so unrealistic. And they could have easily just implied that, like, she had supernatural strength, but they didn't even bother to do that. Like, she was just this twig girl who could just magically overpower these really big guys who could probably easily turn the tables and destroy her.
Well, they just push her over with the finger.
Yeah.
She's little. She's very petite.
So that was bad.
And if part of the storyline was this wine or something gave her these powers, they never said that. And yeah, okay, so they don't say it, they just show it. But still, there's disconnect.
Yeah.
It's something where we have to make it up.
There were a lot of disconnects.
And that's not good. So anyway, I think we're going to have to wrap it up because it's getting very hot in here.
Well, one last
I'm about to
thing.
pass out.
One last thing in terms of the filmmaking is that there was something I really didn't like that they did in the film, which was there was a part where Karen was driving, and she, you can tell she is actually driving, and she is talking on her phone.
In California.
And it was actually pretty scary because like there were all these cars coming, and she was pulling out, and it was like, God, this is kind of like uncomfortable to watch because I just think like, wouldn't it be really sad if she died making Amityville Karen?
Or killed somebody
Ugh.
else? I guess that would have made it more authentic.
That would have added production value.
I don't know. That was not a safe thing to do.
I really didn't like that he had this woman talk on the phone and drive and endanger her safety. I really didn't like that. I thought that was very poor judgment to do that. And, you know, that's something where I would excuse laziness and I would just say, like, use green screen. Or have it where you have green screen and then at the end she pulls into like a driveway and she could talk on the phone pulling into the driveway and that would be acceptable. But to have a real human person on the phone driving, all these cars coming, I really didn't like that.
Even if she wasn't on the phone and she was pretending, she's still not totally paying attention to her driving.
Yeah.
She's remembering her lines.
And you could tell she was uncomfortable doing it. Like she wasn't having fun in that take.
Yeah. So anyway, we have to give it a food review now because that's what we do. That's why we're called Dishing Out on the Movies. We are actually dishing out. And my review is just plain ordinary vanilla ice cream or whatever. Custard. We have a Ritter's custard down the street a ways away. And it could be pretty plain tasting. And just a tiny bit of caramel, and that's the tiny bit of caramel swirled on it would be Chauncey asking for money to be in this movie, to do the movie. And getting money. 40,000, 50,000, whatever.
I think that this was one where he asked for money privately.
Oh.
So we didn't get to see the full amount that people ended up contributing.
And what's your review, Marco?
My food review is going to be fun because my food is from California!
And we have been, like I said, we have been to California, but we weren't.
Unfortunately.
I liked California, but we didn't really get a chance to enjoy it.
I hated it, except for one place that I'll talk about.
Well, we don't have time to talk about that now.
Yeah, well.
Okay, well, hurry up.
But anyways, one last thing is that I really thought, out of all movies to compare this to, this movie reminded me a lot of Napoleon Dynamite, if Napoleon Dynamite was bad.
Oh.
Like, there were so many instances where the camera shots were so shaky that it was like a person with what's that thing that Michael J. Fox has?
Parkinson's.
It's like somebody with Parkinson's was fucking holding the camera. Like there was no stabilization whatsoever, and so there were all these terrible shots where like he would film close-ups of guys' rear ends, and there were these parts where he would like walk around a shot because he was so proud of like this intestine shot that looked terribly fake, and so he like walked around the entire body, and there were so many moments like that where I felt like this is like Napoleon Dynamite, like a Napoleon Dynamite wannabe, and so many scenes that just went on and on and on. But I would give this movie, in terms of food, you know, we went to California and we stayed at this place where they filmed The Great Outdoors. And they had a breakfast place downstairs They did also have an upstairs restaurant, and I thought it was very good. And Safi would never let me go there again, and so that place will always be the best place in California.
Oh, they did go to a breakfast place across the lake.
Well, that.
And I didn't get to go, but they talked about how good it was.
That was
and
a
they
diner.
Had malts and all that.
It was a diner.
Fun. Diners. I mean, we have where we live now. We don't live in California.
But there's no comparison.
We have nothing.
There's no comparison to the upstairs restaurant. That is the infamous upstairs restaurant. But in the downstairs one, they had horrible breakfast. And one day, I decided to get something that was so gross that both times I ate there, or the 3 times I ate there, I wanted to throw up all 3 times I ate there for breakfast. One of the times I went there, I got these, were they pancakes where they had Rice Krispie treats inside them?
And they said that too, though. They said they were called Rice Krispie treats pancakes or something.
They had this
it was
weird,
in the title. I don't know exactly.
Weird strawberry sauce. And to me, I thought, like, this is nothing like I thought it would be. It's not fun. It's not tasty. It's just this gross, like, artificial, like, I don't know what it was. It was like plain yogurt with like strawberry flavoring in it, and it was so gross. I wanted to throw up. I was in the middle of puking, eating every single bite. I couldn't even finish it, so I didn't even have breakfast that day. I just ate like 2 bites, and I almost threw up. And then I had chicken fried steak the next day. That was even worse. So that was this movie for me. It was just a terrible mess. It was childish. It was amateurish. It was nowhere near on the level that I would have expected.
Right.
Based on all those things that I saw years and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Safi.
So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to become one of our subscribers, welcome to our channel. Because we would really like you to join, and we also like to hear your commentary. Are you going to search for this movie to watch? It's called Amityville, you know, like Amityville Horror. It's called Amityville Karen. And you'll see why.
That was just a cheap money-making gimmick. Like, let's call it Amityville something.
Okay. Okay, so anyway, goodbye, everybody.
Bye!